The president just tweeted again about Michael Cohen, calling him a liar, trying to reduce his prison time. His just-written book manuscript, says the president, showed what he said was a total lie, but fake media won't show it. I'm an innocent man being persecuted by some very bad, conflicted, and corrupt people in a witch hunt. The president's actually not referring to shouldn't be referring to a manuscript. It's a book pitch to publishers for Cohen when he was still on the Trump train to do a very positive book about Donald Trump. All right, when President Trump and North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un first shook hands in Hanoi, reporters from Reuters and the AP each yelled questions the way they would at home.
Mr. President, any reaction to Michael Cohen and his testimony?
The result, the White House banned those two pool reporters, along with journalists from the LA Times and Bloomberg, from covering that night's dinner between the two leaders. The reason, said Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was sensitivities over shouted questions. I spoke earlier with Fox News chief White House correspondent John Roberts from Vietnam. John Roberts, welcome.
Good to be with you, Howie. Good to be with you from Vietnam.
What was your reaction when the White House barred 4 print reporters from that first Trump-Kim dinner because a couple of them had shouted questions at an earlier event?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be yet another victory for Kim Jong-un. They were at a photo op that was the one-on-one photo op on Tuesday night between the president and Kim Jong-un, and Jeff Mason and Jonathan Lemire from Reuters and AP, respectively, had the temerity to try to ask a question, and they were ushered out of the room. Now, we do not know for sure if Kim Jong-un complained to President Trump about it. Sarah Sanders was asked about that, and she said, I wouldn't say that. But when they went to go in for what's called the pool spray for the dinner, where President Trump was having dinner with Kim Jong-un, Mick Mulvaney, the Secretary of State, and then a couple of other folks on the North Korean side. There were 4 reporters, Mason and Lemire, and then a reporter from Bloomberg and one from the Los Angeles Times, who were not allowed into that pool spray. The reporter for the Wall Street Journal was assigned to be the pool reporter for all of the print. Now, we can't make the direct connection that they were being punished for having the audacity to ask a question.
Yeah, the official explanation was sensitivities about shouted questions. Does the White House have a point about that taking place with a foreign leader?
Well, the questions were asked of President Trump, and in every leaders event that we do around the world, every time we're in a one-on-one bilateral situation, we always ask the president questions. Sometimes he responds to them, and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes we'll even ask the leader from the other country a question. So it's sensitivities dealing with a person who is not used to being asked questions, certainly not by a free press anyways.
What happened when Kim Jong-un arrived at the hotel in Hanoi where the media filing center had been set up, and you were probably there?
Well, he hadn't even arrived at the hotel. He had just arrived at the train station at the China-Vietnam border, and rumors started flying around. We were all at the Malia Hotel, the North Korean delegation, as well as the White House press corps. Now, some of us, like me, were staying at the Malia Hotel, but every time we go to a city around the world with the president, we set up what's called the White House Filing Center. We usually set this up a couple of weeks in advance. It costs us tens of thousands of dollars that's shared among the press. But when Kim Jong-un got to that train station on the China-Vietnam border, rumors started flying around the Malia Hotel that he was upset that we were in his hotel. And just before that filing center officially opened on Tuesday morning at 11, we got an email from the White House saying we were moving our filing center over here to the International Press Center. I mean, logistically, it was a huge hurdle to get over, but I think principle more than anything, in the 10 years that I have covered the White House off and on through Clinton and through Bush and now President Trump, we have never had to shut down and move a file center in a hotel because there was a complaint by a foreign leader.
Last question. Did you feel out of sync at all traveling halfway around the world for this nuclear summit when the dominant story was the Michael Cohen hearings back in D.C.?
Not at all, because whether it was President Clinton or President Bush, or in many cases President Obama and now President Trump, it seems almost like every time we go overseas, there is another story that knocks whatever the president is doing in whatever city around the world off of the headlines.
All right. John Roberts, thanks very much for joining us from Vietnam.
Thanks, Harry.